This is one thing that really affected tourists in the summertime when there was like, 6 Uber and Lyft drivers for all of Clark County, it seemed like. What's going on, guys? Jacoborth back here with another video of Jacob's Life in Vegas. Coming to you guys today to talk about something that I've had a fair amount of people ask me about this really in recent months. This has happened quite a bit throughout 2021. It's kind of been a theme for 2021, not just in Vegas, but across the country, about the labor shortage that's been going on here in Las Vegas, how it's hurting businesses and that kind of thing. This is one thing that really affected tourists in the summertime when there was like, 6 Uber and Lyft drivers for all of Clark County, it seemed like. This is definitely something that has impacted the locals quite a bit here. You're more likely to feel it locally. So I want to talk about that today, okay, or the Great Resignation, as some places, or as I've heard it referred to in other videos, right, and how that labor shortage, the shortage of employees has been harmful to businesses and really to lots of people, who frequent those businesses. So guys, go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. We're talking about this today because, hey, a place like Ross here, a retail place, is one spot that has definitely been hurting for employees, whether it's retail, whether it's bars, restaurants, haircut places, all kinds of places, all right? Now, there was an article that came out earlier in 2021. It was from March, and it talked about how companies in Nevada were struggling to find workers, even though Nevada's unemployment rate was actually pretty high. So this is something that's been happening within the U.S. for businesses struggling to find employees. This is happening for some time now. It's also been happening outside the U.S., okay? I know a lot of us here in the U.S. just kind of focus on here, what we do here, right? A lot of other countries focus on us as well. But this is going on, really, north of the border here, right? In Canada. Quebec is pushing for more immigration from Latin countries. Shout out to the Mexican family and Diego Reyna, who I watch on YouTube in Spanish from time to time. They do some great content on that. But here in Las Vegas, businesses here are struggling to find employees big time. And I can tell you, just obviously from living here, that I've never seen so many signs around town that say help wanted, workers needed, now hiring, whatever the case is, whether it's a car wash, whether it's a convenience store, whether it's a haircut place, a restaurant, a bar. There's so many places that are just needing employees and they're struggling to find people. And one of the concepts you hear people say is that people won't lower their standards, I've heard it say, or people won't take less pay than they're worth. But most people generally want to keep a roof over their head, whether that's working as an employee, a contractor, or doing numerous side hustles or something like that. So some people have been able to not have to go back to work really after the pandemic for the most part has settled down in a lot of states. And a lot of states have returned back to not wearing masks, having no mandates and things like that. So some people have been able to not have to go back to work because they either get part-time job, maybe they get a different job, they have a side hustle that they do, or multiple side hustles, maybe they started a business. So there's a certain element of that where people have been able to replace their income from something else, with some other way of being productive. Now, this is just supply and demand, really, and showing the value that people bring to the workplace, okay? Now, when there's a shortage of workers, it makes them more valuable. So if you do have a lot of people who don't have to be employees anymore because they've found ways to make money as a contractor or something else, or doing their own small business, then you're gonna have less workers. When there's less workers available, then businesses have to compete more for them. And one of the ways businesses compete is by paying them more. So when there's more workers available, obviously, it's the opposite, right? Businesses have plenty of people to choose from for employment. So, your skills really have to be valuable to be able to stand out from the crowd. Now, local businesses I've seen, there was a haircut place here in town. They were offering a $500 bonus for people to just work for 90 days. Just 90 days, that was it. $500 to work for 90 days there. And this place had increased the pay for everybody who cuts hair there from $11 an hour to $15 an hour. So, we're talking what? Like more than a third of a pay increase. They're getting from 11 to 15 an hour. And this has caused many businesses though here to have to cut hours or shut down certain days, or for certain days of the week, or for several days a week, because they just don't have enough employees. That's really what happened to a place I saw, because they were saying they were down to I think 4 employees or something like that. And I think they usually need 7 or 8 to run their business. What they're saying is they only had 4 employees. So what they were having was, the current employees there, they were being asked to work more hours or work longer hours and work more days and that kind of thing. So it was you had a shortage of employees, and the ones who were there, they were getting more stress put on them because they're having to do more work and carry more of the load because they had a lack of coworkers there. I know of one dental office here who's down to 1 hygienist. They're down to 1 they had. I know we also had, I think it's been resolved now for the most part, a bus driver shortage here in Southern Nevada. I know this because it wasn't that long ago, I actually bought a $20 bus pass to use for 7 days, and I was standing outside waiting at the bus stop. I got there early, waited about half an hour like before the bus came. The bus never showed up, and I'm like, okay, maybe there was just an issue, right? I'll just catch the next one, wait another 45 minutes or so. That bus never showed up, so I ended up taking a Lyft, which cost me about $60 to get to where I was going to. Round trip. And so, I mean, that $20 I spent on the bus pass was just gone. Like, never got to use it. The Lyft driver, I told him, like, yeah, I was going to take the bus, but nobody showed up. He said, oh, yeah, because there's a shortage of bus drivers right now in Clark County. And I looked it up real quick, and I saw there was only like certain roads and certain routes had bus drivers. So it was going to take them like a whole month to get people hired, get them trained, and get them going, because we had a shortage of bus drivers here in town. So this is public sector and private sector. It's making it a challenge to get people hired, or making a challenge to hire people. Now, the other impact this has had, and this particularly is going to hit locals more than tourists, is lots of local businesses, they've been increasing their prices. Like I talked about earlier, the haircut place, they increased their employee pay from $11 to $15 an hour, but they had to increase their prices for $2 for every single haircut offering they had. So, the people, so you have a labor shortage of employees, which, the businesses are going to increase their prices to try to attract employees, but those prices, that price increase gets passed on to the customer. So now it's one of those things that really tends to affect everybody. Las Pupusas, which is a popular restaurant here in town, Vegas. They have numerous locations. They've added a $5 fee for mesa grande, which means like big table, right, or large table. On their receipts, they actually added a $5 fee for that. I think they're calling it I don't think they're calling it auto-gratuity. I think it's just called a service charge is what they're actually referring to it as. But it's just another fee that gets tacked on. So lots of businesses are having to either increase prices, add fees, add stuff where they can to try to compensate for the fact that they're having to pay more to try to get people to come and work. Now, another thing to keep in mind is, during the pandemic, I think a lot of this stuff this stuff will eventually get sorted out, okay? Because during the pandemic, a lot of people did consolidate, right? So maybe you had families who moved in together. You had, kids, adults that were, their parents are older that were living on their own. They ended up going to move with their parents, or people who had parents living on their own and came in to move with them. People often would sell stuff, try to get some extra cash during the pandemic, because a lot of people didn't know what the heck was going to happen or what was going on. So you did have people who consolidated, who moved out of places. Certain places, like I know back in California, I'm originally from, some places like in Los Angeles, the San Francisco Bay Area, actually saw rent decrease. Or, people who are used to getting their rent raised every time they renew their lease, the rent did not raise because they had this excess of people leaving. So you had people leaving places, particularly big cities, right? Either moving in with other family or just trying to find a cheaper place to live. So, that stuff has an impact on, people moving, on employment, on prices. I mean, it can be a very complex economic picture. Now, another thing to remember too is with all this stuff happening is a lot of this is impacted by all the stimulus money, right? All the stimulus money that was pumped into the economy during 2020. And shout out to Lucky on the channel Automotive Life here on YouTube. He's the only one I've heard use this term called stimulus baller. That was such a great term to use. So there was stimulus ballers during all the money being trillions and trillions of dollars being pumped into the economy during 2020. And, obviously those checks, things like that can't go on forever, whether they're federal checks, whether they're state checks or that kind of thing, because that can actually, over the long term, that can have a more negative impact than the short-term relief it's supposed to provide. Because there's no perfect solution for a lot of this stuff when it comes to economics. So, if you're going to make a change in one area, it's going to affect something else. So if you increase costs for a business, when it comes to like paying more money for employees, that cost is going to go on to the customers. So increasing one area or changing one area is going to have an impact somewhere else. Now, here in Las Vegas, and here in Nevada, we were also a place that we actually were, unfortunately, we had a huge percent of businesses closed during the pandemic. Las Vegas as a city was number 2 or 3 as far as cities in America. Nevada as a state was also like number 2 or 3. And we had around a 30% unemployment rate in April of 2020. So, I mean, it was obviously a very bad picture here. Now, will this stuff get sorted out? Like, eventually, right? Of course it's going to get sorted out at some point. Businesses will adjust. People are going to have to adjust, whether it's, if government's giving out stimulus money or they're printing money, people are going to adjust to that. If they're not, then people are going to adjust that. Businesses are going to adjust. So, how long this will take where, we don't have the same kind of labor shortage or businesses are able to get more employees. I mean, it's going to have to get to, back to a more normalized situation eventually. How long, who knows? It's anyone's best guess, right? But, all the trillions of dollars that have been pumped into the economy, that's going to have an impact, and that could have an impact. Well, I mean, you're actually seeing it, right? It's having a lasting impact for a while here. So really, it's anyone's best guess, but Las Vegas is definitely been affected by the labor shortage. What we're having here as far as the labor shortage, I know it's happening across other cities and other countries. So it's not just Vegas that's having it, but we have definitely been impacted by this. So hey, if you're looking to move here and get a job, now's a great time to get in, because lots of places are paying rates they normally wouldn't, or wages they normally wouldn't, giving bonuses they normally would not, just because of the circumstances of the economy right now. So guys, tell me what you think about this down below. I want to hear what you have to say. Tell me if this is going on. I'm sure it's going on in most big cities, but tell me how it's going on in your city, how it's affecting you, if it has, and that kind of thing. I'd love to hear about it from other places and other parts of the country as well. So with that being said, thank you for watching. Thank you for being so awesome. That is it for this video. I am Jacob. This is My Life in Vegas.